All right, so this first one's from Zach. Let's go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll comment after. That on the cross, I would gladly bury, He bled and died to take away my sin. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to Thee. How great Thou art! How great Thou art! Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to Thee. How great Thou art! How great Thou art! How great Thou art! All right. You have a good team going on there. I can hear all the details, all the vocals, and the flute even. I could hear the flute. The thing that I noticed, though, is that I'm just kind of being hit by a wall of sound, and it's almost like everybody's fighting for the same space in the sound spectrum, and even the bass guitar seems to be fighting for the same area. Like, I'm not getting the depth out of the bass guitar. Everybody just seems to be going after that mid-range stuff. So we need to break that out a little bit, and that's what will bring balance to your sound, and it will also make the drum mix sound balanced. So the reason you commented about the drum mix not sounding balanced is because there's so much going on in that same range. So what we need to do there is, so you may just need an instrument to break out of that space. It seemed like Dylan, would you say it was the acoustic guitar that was kind of like dominating? It maybe need to be brought down.
Let's listen again. I'd say vocals are dominating.
Vocals are dominating?
Yeah. Acoustic guitar behind it, probably.
So maybe thin out those vocals a little bit. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vocal mics plus a choir. So I think we probably just need some panning on the vocals is what would solve that problem. Since you have so many vocals, they're all kind of like hitting right there in the center. So if you panned the ones that are on the left side of the stage a little bit to the left, the ones on the right a little bit to the right, that'll help bring some separation to your vocals. And maybe on your harmony vocals, just blend them in a little bit better to the mix, maybe not so forward out front. I think you have your low-cut filter set correctly because I'm not getting a lot of low-end energy from the vocals. But you could use a low shelving filter on the vocals to try to thin them out just a little bit to make room for everything else that's in the mix. So this is a trick that I use quite often actually to thin out a vocal, is I'll set a low shelving filter around 800 hertz, and then I'll just notch that down until the vocal thins out. I don't want it too thin because then a vocal that's too thin, it doesn't sound right either. So I find myself maybe cutting 1 to 3 dB or whatever with that filter. So something you may try as well to make room in the mix. That's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to make room in the mix so that everybody's not occupying the same part of the frequency spectrum. And another thing I noticed that this mix needs is some ambience. It needs some reverb and some room mics. But you can start with reverb because that's the easiest way to do it. I'm not really hearing any reverb in this mix. It's really dry. And the reason that sounds strange is because when let's say you just have a completely dry mix in the room, you're going to get some natural reverb in the room. It's going to bounce around, hit the walls or whatever, and you're going to hear the ambience of the room. But in a live stream, you're kind of like, there's nothing like that. There's no sound bouncing around, nothing. So it just sounds dry, and it actually sounds unnatural to not have reverb. So you add reverb to kind of simulate them listening to that in a room. Anything you listen to on the radio or on your phone on Spotify or whatever, those mixes have a lot of reverb and effects in them to simulate an actual live concert. So whenever we don't add that to our live stream, it just sounds strange to everybody else that's out there because they're used to hearing it. So add some reverb to those vocals. My favorite reverb for vocals is a plate reverb. I love to use a hall reverb on instruments and then a small room reverb on drums. You mix those three things together, you get a nice sound. And the goal is you turn it up until you can hear it, and then you dial it back just a bit until it blends in with the mix. That's kind of a good rule of thumb. It doesn't have to be that way. Some people like more reverb, some people like less, but that's a good starting point for you. So get that reverb added. Maybe you already have reverb in the room. The way that you get that added to your live stream mix is you send your reverb effects returns to the live stream bus. I mean, it kind of depends on how you have it configured. Let me see if you gave me any details on that. No, you didn't tell me how you have that configured. So if you need some help on how to get the reverb to your live stream mix, just reach out to us on Slack, and we will walk you through that. So Dylan, they asked about like ideas on a smooth intro video and a countdown timer. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's so many different directions you could go with that. So for a long time, we've had, and we kind of stole this from Church of the Highlands because they give out their resources. I think we took this idea in like 2019. We took their countdown song, which is a really cool song that builds for 5 minutes, comes up to a big crescendo at the end. And it's just a really cool way to start the worship service. And they have footage of their state, of their city, of their church throughout this thing. And so whenever I took it, I just made our own footage because they're in Alabama. So I put Oklahoma footage, I put Owasso footage, and I put footage of our church. And it's really due for an update on the footage. Gosh, sorry, my mic keeps falling down. So recently, I just did this. I changed it to the song with announcement loops on top of it until I can replace the footage because the footage on it is sent from 2019, and it's really due for some updating. So that's what we've been doing for a while.
Hey, I looked a lot younger back then.
Eventually, I'll get all that new footage captured and edited on there. That obviously takes quite a bit of time. That's a pretty time-consuming countdown to create. I'll give you that, but it is really cool, and it gives visitors a look into what your church is like and how much you love your city and your state, which is really cool. If not that, you can just go find probably a countdown on a website for free that you can just play from ProPresenter before the service starts. Maybe find a stock music track to put behind it. You can really get creative with it. You can be as basic or as extra as you want. I don't know if that answered the question, but...
Yeah, it's good. I think that consistency is key as well. It's not that you have to use the same countdown forever and ever, but you should use it for a long period of time because that's like a mental cue for people. Like when they hear that certain music, they know that it's time to start settling down and getting into the auditorium.
Yeah.
And if you change it up on them, you'll notice that nobody moves. They don't know what's going on.
I would say the tone of the track is really important, too. Mm-hmm. If you start your worship set out with a high-tempo, big song, then you probably want your countdown to end high-tempo and big. You don't want it to end really soft and ballad, and then all of a sudden you're coming in with this big song. So just match it to your worship set and what your church sounds like. If you have any more questions about that, let me know, and I'll look at the comments here in a minute. Visually with your live stream, if you'll put that back up, Paul, I think it looks really good. There's only two things I really noticed, and that's that your front wash is a little bit inconsistent. So some people are a little bit darker. Some of the vocalists are darker than, for instance, the guy that's on the keyboard. And maybe that's because you have more front lighting where the pastor is going to end up standing. So I understand that if that's the case. But I would like to see that wash evened out a little bit more across the front of the stage. And then also your lyrics are a little bit hard to read in some of the shots. It just becomes a little messy, like the shot with the keyboard at the bottom. It's just that bottom line of text looks a little bit messy. So maybe if you put some blocks behind the text, or if you give it a drop shadow or a black outline to help it stand out, that would probably help that a little bit. But other than that, I think it looks really good. Your color matching between the shots is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's really close. And I think you're doing a great job with the camera angles that you're working with.
Awesome. Great job, guys. John commented, John Bryan, he said, a perfect example of why we need to check our stream every time because we didn't have our right camera up at the beginning, you know.
Paul's just learning back there.
That's so true.
He's actually never messed with our new live stream setup here at the church. If you don't know, the house that we've been officing out of is no longer our office, and that's where our live stream setup was before this. So now we're just trying to make our church setup work, and it looks really good, but it's just a lot more complicated. So
still working out the kinks.
Working out the kinks.
And I don't think Paul ever is put on visual duty.
No.
He's always on the audio side. So this is like a crash course for Paul today. He's back there giggling. He's learning. He's a quick learner, though. He picks up quickly. Let's see. Craig says, are most churches using a separate mixer to mix their streams, or are they using an aux mix out? I don't know what the stats are as far as like what percentage of churches are using a separate mix for their live stream. But here at Collaborate Worship, we always recommend that you use an aux mix or a bus mix for your live stream. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. I know it doesn't work every time, but I would say it's really rare that you actually need a separate mix for your live stream. One good example would be, let's say you're in a room where you like run hardly any drums through your main mix because it's such a small room or whatever. In that case, you might benefit from having a separate mix for your live stream. But other than that, most churches, like I'm talking 90% of churches should be using a bus mix or an aux mix for their live stream mix. Now, the key to that is you have to have a great room mix for that to happen. You have to have an EQ. You have to EQ your room so that you're not EQing your individual channels to fit the room. Otherwise, it does sound weird on the live stream, but EQing your room will fix that problem. And that's why within our online training, we cover all those aspects. We get your room sounding great so that your live stream sounds great as a bus mix, and it's very easy to manage. It's very hard to manage two separate mixers. You have to have two volunteers. And I don't know that I've ever known that to go well. Most people who are using that setup are struggling because they're like, this volunteer does it one way, this does it one way, sometimes it sounds good in the room, and then blah, 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 blah. So you can just eliminate a lot of that. My goal is always to find the simplest way to get the job done well. So if that's your motto too, if that's what you want, then Collaborate Worship is a great resource for you. If you're into making things more complicated and getting more into the details, we're probably not the right fit for you. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's just not what we do. That's not our goal here. So if you're interested in having a great sounding bus mix as your live stream, then get access to our courses. You can find a link in the description or go to collaborateworship.com. Let's see, where can I submit my live stream? When you become one of our students, you'll get a link in your email on how to submit your live stream. So that's how you do that. That's something we do for our students. Somebody asked, how do you get access to the Highlands resources? Do you remember the website for that?
No, I just know we went to a conference way back when, and that's how we got access.
Yeah. Was it Grow Leader or?
If you just look up their resources, it'll probably come up on Google.
Yeah. It's all free. You just have to kind of go create an account, and then you can get access to everything that they offer. From sermon bumpers to the intro video to all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This next one's from Adam from Richfield Church of the Nazarene. Said our worship leader leads from the keys, and at times they get buried in the mix, frequently by the orchestra instruments. So suggestions for keeping white balance consistent across different camera models as well. So he wants comments on both the sound and the visuals, and that's what we do. So that's a good thing.
You know what? We might have just watched his a second ago. I don't know what happened there. Hold on. Oh, those got backwards somehow.
So that was Adam that we just did?
Yeah, so that was Adam.
Well.
My bad.
There you go. Well, Adam, or Zach, sorry we were attributing that to the wrong person. Adam, rewind a little bit. You can go get your live stream review.
We're just off our game today.
So who's up next? What church is that?
So the first one you said was Zach. The church was Life in Christ. Yeah, so this should be Zach's Life in Christ.
Okay, so now we're doing Zach's Life in Christ. Wants us to comment on the drum mix.
All right, here we go.
I love seeing the kids. That's
awesome.
Really cute. All right, so I want to comment first on, I'm hearing like some low-end noise, and I'm trying to determine where it's coming from. It sounds like you have a piano that's mic'd, so it could be coming through that piano mic. Could be coming through the drum mics. Could be coming through the vocal mics. You need to make sure that you have low-cut filter on your piano. Somewhere around 80 hertz would probably be good. And if that's the problem, then that would clean that up. And also on your kick drum, you need to make sure that you have a gate on the kick drum so that it only opens whenever the kick is kicked and then the mic is closed. Other than that, that'll solve that. So that's what's making your mix just sound kind of, you're like, what's the deal here? Like, it sounds just kind of messy, muddy. It's because there's just a lot of low-frequency ambient noise going on in this mix. So get that cleaned up, and you're going to have a lot cleaner mix. And also, I noticed on your vocals, they all need compression, and I'm sure that's a little bit of a challenge. I don't know if the kids sing every week or if this was kind of like a special thing, but there's some basic compression settings that you can use that'll work pretty much for any vocal. Now, there can be some wild differences between some vocalists and others, so I can't say that's like 100% of the time this is going to work, but this standard process will give you the control that you need in most cases. And the reason I say that is because the vocals were just kind of like, they'd kind of blast me, and then they'd kind of be a little bit quiet. And so compression will solve that problem. You can set your attack, hold, and release to auto, and then you're going to set the threshold. That's the main thing you're looking at on the compressor. You pull up the compressor settings screen, and you'll see a gain reduction meter. It's usually a little red meter. And as you increase the threshold, you'll see that red meter responding more and more. And the goal is to get that little gain reduction meter to be averaging around -6 dB. You go more than that, your vocal kind of loses its life because it does need some dynamic range, but that's kind of like the sweet spot. So go set your compression, and since you're one of our students, you have access to the courses. So I'd actually just go through the vocals course in the Consistent Sound Made Simple course, and it'll walk you through compression and EQ and everything on those vocals. It'll fix that. Same thing for the drums. Go through the drums video. It'll show you how to set gate on those mics to make sure those are cleaned up, and then check on your piano mic and put a low-cut filter on there if you don't have one there already. And you may even, I didn't hear a bass guitar, so you probably do want to set the low-cut filter around 80 hertz on the piano, but if you did have a bass guitar, you could set it a little bit higher, maybe around 120 hertz. So it kind of just depends whether you have a bass guitar or not. What do you think, Dylan?
So visually, I'm just seeing some white balance inconsistencies, and it looks like your walls are white or warm white. So adjust your white balance on your cameras to where they look like they do in person. Well, then again, you might have warm lighting in your room. Like our walls are gray in this room, and the lighting is warm, so it looks like a warm gray, even though it's not. So you got to determine if you want your lighting or your room to look white priority or ambience priority, because your camera can't really compensate for that like your eyes can. So it's either white's got to be white, or they need to be the color that you're seeing with your eyes. You got to choose between that. And I would say these shots are just a little bit too far on the warm. It's looking like a mistake more than an ambience choice. I don't know if that made sense, but that's really the only thing I'm noticing with visuals here. I'm trying to see, there's some other shots. So this white balance looks a lot closer. Skin tones look closer on this one. So maybe match to this that we're seeing right now, and I think it'll look good.
Awesome. Thanks for sending that in. I think we can go ahead and move on to the next one.
We noticed Adam, which we watched his first accidentally, he asked a question about white balance on cameras. Suggestions for keeping white balance consistent across different camera models. So that's a tough one, because obviously all cameras are going to render colors differently. The bummer is that not all cameras allow you to adjust the tint in your white balance, which is how much magenta or green that it has. And unless you have sunlight or really, really high quality lighting, you're going to have a magenta or green cast. That's measured in a measurement called CRI. So lighting that's not the sun is trying to replicate the pureness of the sun's light. And, if you set your white balance to 5,000 outside, your tint would probably be at 0 because the sun is 100% CRI. It doesn't have a green or magenta cast. It looks perfect. So you don't need to compensate. But with lighting in here, you need to. Like our cameras, I think I'm having to push towards magenta, even though the CRI for these lights is like 93, which is pretty good. I'm still having to push it quite a bit on our Blackmagic cameras. And then every camera is going to be different. Like we have all 3 Blackmagic cameras back there, and because the lenses are different brands, I have to adjust the tint differently. Like I think one's at 19 and one's at 15. So go into your cameras, see if they have a tint adjustment. Make sure that start out with all of them on the same Kelvin setting. Don't set them to automatic. And you're probably going to have to adjust a little bit from camera to camera. Like probably not all of them are going to be able to be set to 3300, for example, because like I said, they're going to show it differently. So start out at the same Kelvin and the same tint, and then just look with your eyes and adjust each camera to where they all look the same. You're probably not going to be perfect, but you can get them pretty close as long as they have that Kelvin adjustment setting. If not, you're kind of sunk. It's really hard to get it really close if they don't have that, unfortunately.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. That's why you should just get all the same brand. It makes it a lot easier.
All right. This next one is from Mike. He's from First Baptist Hanford. They don't have a dedicated mix for their broadcast. They're using Allen and Heath SQ6 to get the live stream until we can get Dante out for a dedicated broadcast mix. And we just talked about that, how dedicated broadcast mix is usually not the right solution for most churches. But let's take a listen to this and see, like maybe there's some small changes we can make to your aux mix and make it better.
The cross of salvation was only the start. Now I am chosen, free and forgiven. I have a future. It's worth the living. I wasn't made to be tending a grave. I was called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more.
All right. Dude, your instrument mix is on point. Your drum, that's probably one of the best drum mixes that I've heard. Like you're nailing the drums, guitar sounds great. All the instruments sound great, but the vocals are throwing this mix off. The vocals sound they're too thin. The low cut filter is too aggressive on the vocals, so we need to add some warmth back to them. Generally, I find the best placement for a low cut filter on a vocal to be somewhere around 180 hertz. But the goal is that you set it until it cleans up that low end. You can move it up until it sounds thin and then dial it back to bring that warmth back into the mix. Also look in your low mids. If you're using like a low shelving filter to carve out the vocals even more, or maybe you have a PEQ filter, taking out that nasty like 500 range of a vocal, just make sure that's not too wide. Make sure you're still getting some of that 200 to 400 hertz range in the vocal, because that's where the warmth of the vocal is, and that's what's wrong with this mix. And it almost sounds like you're boosting the high frequencies in the vocals as well, which is making it sound unnatural. So I would look at any boosting that you're doing in the high end of the frequency spectrum and dial that back quite a bit. And then also for the vocal mix, this is all just vocal mix. Your instrument mix is on point. Just leave that alone and just dial in these vocals, and your whole mix is going to make a lot more sense. We need some more reverb on the vocals as well. I think you probably have a little bit in there, but not quite enough. So it kind of sounds like the instruments are real ambient and real full sounding, and then your vocals sound really focused and bright. So they're not mixing together. So if you warm up the vocals, add some more ambience to the vocals, the whole mix is going to blend together, and it's going to sound amazing. Amazing. So you're so close, so close. Just do those things, and you're going to notice a huge difference.
Yeah, so visually it looks good. I'm noticing, and I'm not really sure if I'm seeing a bandwidth issue or a frame rate issue or a shutter speed issue, but it was looking a little choppy for a second. So double check that your frame rate on everything is the same. So your cameras, your switcher, your encoder if you're using a separate one from the switcher, make sure they're all set to the same frame rate, and then make sure that your shutter speed is double what your frame rate is. So that's just going to give you the most natural motion blur. So, for instance, if your frame rate is 30 frames a second, your shutter speed needs to be 1/60. If you go lower, it's obviously going to look really choppy, I guess. And then if you go higher than that, that's technically okay, but your motion blur is not going to be natural. It'll be more sharp, I guess. So you won't see, like if I move my hand like this, it won't be as blurry. It'll be more like you're seeing the individual frames more. And some people do that as a creative decision if they want smoother movement. Like sports might be a good time to do that, but I think for a church live stream, just do double. That's the standard, and I think it looks good and natural. So double check that. And then also, this might be a matter of taste, but I think it's looking a little contrasty. It's making the dynamic range look a little bit lower than it probably could if the contrast was dialed back a little bit. So Paul, if you switch between us and their feed, you can kind of look. On our Blackmagic cameras, I have it set to an extended dynamic range setting, and then I'm just adding a little bit more contrast than what it gives. And you can see our image that we're on right now, it's looking a little more flat than theirs, and you might not like that it's this flat. This is kind of my preference. Maybe you'd like something in between what they have and what we have, but just try to dial in your contrast to get the best dynamic range, the best black levels. Obviously, you don't want your blacks to look gray, so you just kind of have to play with it and see what you like best. But for my preference, I would say it's just a tad too contrasty. But if you like it, that's okay. That's all I got, though. Great
Awesome.
job.
Rachel can hear that train.
Really?
Yeah. The train's going on out there.
I think the ambient mics are on in here, so that's probably why.
Somebody commented that they don't think that the vocals sound too thin. Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree. So there's that.
Well, you're wrong. Just kidding. Just kidding.
There's not enough said about the warmth that's needed in a vocal. It's such a delicate balance because if you have too much of that low mid frequency, it can really steal the mix, right? The vocal can just cloud the mix up. But then if you dial it back too much, then the vocal loses its power. There's the warmer frequencies in a room, especially in a worship setting, are so important because you want people to like kind of feel like they're getting a hug by the sound as they worship. I don't know how else to put that. And if you steal the warmth away from the vocal, especially the lead vocal, it misses that. So it's a delicate balance between warmth and clarity.
And taste is very subjective.
It is.
Makes our job more difficult, but
That's
it
true.
is what it is.
Yep. But if you like a brighter vocal, then you go for it. All right. So that was Mike, right, from First Baptist Hanford. So next up we have Joseph from First Family Community Church. Looking for a set of ears to help with our slower songs that we use for midweek service, mainly vocal background blending, and if I'm using too much reverb and delay. Also, if I'm compressing the lead vocal too much. Specifically, start at 31 minutes, if you can. So, go ahead.
It's at 31 minutes?
Yep.
Oh, I was really close. All right, here we go.
Now I speak who I'm meant.
It's who I'm meant to be.
It's my song of freedom. My song of freedom. I am free now. I am free. This is my song of freedom. My song of freedom. 'Cause I am free now. I am free. It's my song of freedom.
Song of freedom.
My song of freedom.
Song of freedom.
Oh, I am free now. I am free. It's my song of freedom.
Song of freedom.
My song of freedom.
Song of freedom.
Oh, I am free.
All right, so you asked about the lead vocal. Is there too much compression? I don't think so. I thought there was still some dynamic range there. Maybe a little bit, because like there's a little bit of like plosives going on that sounded a little bit unnatural, because that could be a sign of too much. So you could dial back your threshold a little bit on that. But I thought I heard some peaking on his vocal, so I would check the gain. He seems like he's a very dynamic singer. So you'll set his gain whenever he's belting, like he was in that segment right there, just to make sure he's never going into the red. Let's see, you asked about, is there too much reverb? I could actually I could actually use a little bit more reverb in this mix. It was, but if that's what you're going for, then that works too. Just for my personal preference, that was a little not enough reverb. I would add a little bit more reverb to the mix. The main challenge that I heard with this mix is that it sounds overall dull. Like there's a part of the frequency spectrum in the uppers that's missing, and it's across the board. So I can't say that it's on a certain vocal because the drums sound dull, the vocals sound dull. So it's like there's something going on the like maybe on your overall live stream bus that you're cutting out. Let's see, where could it be? Probably somewhere around 3 to 5 kilohertz, maybe even a little bit higher than that. So if you're doing any carving in that range, 3 kilohertz and up, I would go and bring that back into the live stream mix because it needs that clarity back to the mix. I'm kind of wondering if I'm even hearing above like 7 kilohertz, 7, 8. It almost sounds like that's being eliminated in this mix. So go look and see what's going on. Maybe you're using our room EQ technique to carve out that 3 kilohertz range for the room. You don't want to do that on the live stream. That's room EQ. Room EQ, not live stream EQ. So if you're doubling up that EQ that you put on your room on the live stream, that could be causing this problem to make it sound dull. It's interesting, whenever you follow our EQ curve for the room, it sounds great in the room. But if you use that same EQ curve on the live stream, it makes the live stream sound dull. So go check that. Once you fix that, your live stream is going to go, wow, it's going to like come alive. Sparkle. Yeah. What do you think, Dylan?
I think we've reviewed this one before. It looks familiar. And I think I already commented on the white balance being off because it looks like the lighting is giving you a magenta cast, your front wash. If I had to guess, it kind of looks like RGB lighting that's being mixed to try to get white maybe, or maybe it's just a low CRI fixture. I would try to see if you can dial back some magenta and maybe some Kelvin as well, so make it a little cooler, make it a little bit more on the green side, because the skin tones are just looking a little orangey magenta, I would say. But I think everything else you're working with here is looking pretty good. Those wash lights, the blue ones we're looking at right now that you see on the wall, I'm seeing a hot spot at the bottom, so I would maybe see if you could reposition those to where it's a little more even as it's washing up the wall. That's really all I'm seeing, though.
Awesome.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks for sending that in. Well, hello from Canada, Jonathan. It's great to have you. Hey, how do I submit my live stream for review? Mike is asking. This is something that we do for our students. So when you become a student, we'll send you a link via email to submit your live stream, and then you can do that every month and kind of get better as time goes on. So collaborateworship.com or use the link in the description. And we just launched something new. Whenever you become a student, you also give access to someone in a developing country. So it's kind of like a one-for-one partnership. Your partnership with us enables us to serve more people. So kind of a cool thing. Go check that out. You can get the details by using the link in the description. All right, this next one is from Elijah, I think is how you say that. It's just an interesting spelling. Cornerstone Church of God. They have inconsistency with live stream level. They're having a hard time with their limiter. For music, I can leave the limiter alone, but as soon as the speaker walks up, I have to push the end gain 5 to 10 dB. Okay, the fix to that is just to increase your speaker or microphone like in the live stream bus. Just increase his volume. Sometimes you have to push it over 0, and that's okay. Put him at plus 5 dB if you have to get him in line with the music. He says he recommends starting around around the 19-minute mark or 27-minute mark.
19 or 27. That's weird. It pulled up in a different place. All right, here's 19.
Power in the name, there is power in the name of Jesus. There's power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. No other name I know there's healing in. There is healing in the name of Jesus. There is healing in the name of Jesus. Healing in the
awesome. Bass guitar sounds awesome, by the way. Nail in the bass guitar. Sounds great. Drums sound good. I'm not hearing the pianos, so I think they could come up in the mix to fill in that area. So it kind of sounds like there's a hole in the mix, and I think it's the pianos just need a little more. I could even use a little bit more of the electric guitar. But the main thing that I want you to do on this mix is add reverb to it. It's I don't hear any reverb, so if you have it, it's not even close to enough. I'm not even able to pick it up. And I see that you stole your room mic to put a mic under the snare, which is cool, because I would actually, if I had to choose between reverb and a room mic, I would choose reverb first. I want to have both, but but if you could only choose one, then put the reverb on there. So go through the reverb lessons in the course and add that reverb to your live stream mix. And if you run into any snags on getting that to happen, reach out to us on Slack, and we will help you out with that. I see you're using the Behringer Wing, so it's a relatively simple thing to do. Let's say that you don't want reverb in your room, but you want it in your live stream. You can do that. So if you need help making that happen, let us know. But reverb is going to take this mix. You have a good mix here. It's going to make a good mix sound great. What do you think about visuals, Dylan?
But
I believe he was asking about recommendations on different ways to present the pastor's slide here in the bottom right. Trying to think. That really just depends on how your live stream is set up, honestly. So what we do is, if we are putting up a scripture, we do the scripture from ProPresenter, and then I have a specific look that's going to the live stream that has a key and a fill, and I can set that up to look however I want. I can put it on a background if I want to, and it's basically just at the bottom of the frame showing 2 or 3 lines of text on top of basically a cropped version of what's on the LED wall behind Cade, and that's how we show that.
Tempted.
Whoops. And if it's anything else, we kind of just have it in ProPresenter and then go full screen, show it for a second, and then bring it back down. Or we could also cut to a wide shot of it on the LED wall. So it really just depends on your setup and what works well. Looking on my computer screen, which is bigger than a phone, obviously, I can read everything in that bottom right thing, but I could see it being pretty small on a phone screen. So keep that in mind. Just trying to think of the best option. It's hard to know without seeing what you got going on.
It's all about function, right? Well,
Yeah.
for me it is. So, like in this case, if there's always that much text on his slides, then it should be full screen, in my opinion, because that way people could read it. And then just leave it up while he's reading Hebrews 2, and then you take it off. So it's going to be quite a bit of more switching that way, but it would serve your people better on the live stream.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. Just it gives something to switch to break up the visual interest of the shot too. So if text is the importance of what they're taking in at the moment, then just show that on the screen. And then once they're done reading the text, take it off.
In
Pretty good rule
general,
of thumb.
this kind of like bottom right-hand corner slide thing is not a good solution. I can't really think of a time when it would be a good solution. There's always something better, a better way to do it.
Yeah.
When I do my slides, I only put like 2 to 4 lines of text in a slide. So that enables them to crop, and I only use a third of the slide. That way they can crop out and then put it at the bottom. But I've also seen people who will crop the pastor, like, because since you have such a wide shot of him, to where he's kind of like a sliver on the side, and then it's most of the screen is the slide. That could work too if you have the ability to do that.
Obviously much more complicated to do that.
Yeah. Depends what software they have, right?
Yep.
And how easy that is to pull off. All right. We have one more to go.
One mo.
This is from Danny with Gran Yo Soy. Want to clean up the sound. They just want to sound better. They're using the QU32. Let's take a listen.
Lloro, canto y tiemblo. No te puedo mirar, ni te puedo tocar. No ha llegado el momento. Y hay veces que me afan. Creo que ya tú no estás, pero vuelvo y te siento. Y cuando me toca.
All right, a couple things on this mix is the first thing you need to work on is how you layer your mix together. It's just as far as the levels between the different instruments and the vocals, it could use some work. Everything's kind of out of balance. For example, the hi-hat is really loud in this mix, and so when he's hitting that hi-hat, it really like takes over the mix. It can come down quite a bit. The best way to learn how to layer a mix is you'll see in the course how I have the mixing triangle to try to give you a visual of how you should build a mix. And at the bottom of that triangle is the bass guitar and kick drum, because that sets the foundation of the sound. And then above that is the instrumental mix and the background vocals. You mix all that together to kind of, you don't necessarily have to hear things individually, but if you can pull that off to where you have a mix of your instruments and you can still hear things individually when you're paying attention, that's a great instrumental mix. But that's the beef of your mix. And then on top of that is your lead instrument. Every song has a different lead instrument. Sometimes the piano is the lead. Sometimes the electric guitar is the lead. I'm talking about the most prominent instrument in the mix, and sometimes it changes throughout the song. So this is where you have to listen to the original album and pay attention to, who's the leader here, instrumentally wise. You put that right on top of your overall like instrument blend. And then at the very top is your lead vocal. I always tell people that if you get your lead vocal right in the mix, most people won't even notice what's wrong with the rest of your mix. They just want to hear who's leading the song so that they can follow along. That's the most important part for the congregation. So focus on that part first. Lead vocal, you should always be able to hear every single word that the lead vocal sings. And if you are missing words here and there, that's because they're not loud enough in the mix. So bring them up. And if they're jumping in and out of the mix, they probably just need some compression. So work on the balance of your mix. One thing that I would do in this situation is to pull out all of the vocals and just get my instrumental mix right first, and then layer in my vocals on top of that. Layer in the background vocals first to where they kind of blend in with the instrumental mix, and then throw the lead vocal on the top of everything. That's generally the easiest way to fix a mix. Like this, I'll even just kind of like turn everything down and start with the bass guitar and kick drum and just build the mix from the ground up. That's what needs to happen here. So don't be afraid of your faders. Some people kind of get their faders in a certain place and then they don't really want to touch them. They're just making these small adjustments and they end up with a mix like this because they're afraid to just pull it all down and start over. But in this case, I'd recommend just pull it all down and start over, build that mix from the ground up. And then once you have a solid, balanced mix going on, then add some reverb to this mix. I wasn't hearing any reverb. That kind of tends to be, or seems to be, the common thread throughout the live streams today, is that everybody needs to add that reverb to their mix. You have to have it on a live stream mix. You just can't get away from it. Otherwise, it sounds dry, and there's no life to it. And that's because you don't have these loudspeakers in a big room that are, adding their own reverb within the room. So yeah, on the live stream, you always need to add reverb. There's a reverb video in the course that'll walk you through my 3 favorite reverbs to add to the mix. You blend those together, and you're going to be like, wow, my mix sounds like it's exciting now, like it's alive. There's air, there's breath to it. It doesn't, yeah. So there you go. Build this mix from the ground up, add reverb, and then you're going to be happy with your progress.
On the topic of the faders, I've actually been seeing comments again about setting your gain so that your faders are at unity. So you have a good visual reference of your mix. Can you explain why we should not do that?
Okay, so that's a common misconception out there, that the goal, some people think that the goal of gain is to set it so that all your faders can be at 0 whenever you have the mix that you want. And that is not the purpose of gain. The reason they put a gain knob on your mixer is so that you could get all of your instruments and vocals operating at the same level before they travel through the rest of your mixer. You could think of gain kind of like as the front door of your mixer. You could think of it like a water faucet, and everybody is sending you a different flow of signal. The electric guitar is sending you a signal that's louder than the bass guitar, and the goal with gain is to get everybody at the same level before it goes through compression and gating and EQ, and then finally the last stop on the mixer is the fader. So that's why you set your gain, so that it, on the gain level meter, where the green lights meet the yellow, you set the gain right there. For every instrument, every vocal, that gets them all on the same playing field before you do anything else to that signal. So it is wrong to set gain to get your faders all at unity. That's the wrong way to do it. It's not the purpose of gain. It's not the right use of gain. I don't know why that lives on as a way to do things. I really don't, but it's not how you do it. If you want great sound, you can't do it that way.
If you ask me, that's kind of the opposite of a good visual reference of your mix. Like, if I'm seeing everything at unity, I don't really have a visual of how it's sitting in the mix at all. Like,
true.
The fader is, you're cutting, like at unity, that's how much sound you have based off of your gain setting. Like, you're getting it all. And if you go above unity, you're artificially boosting the sound, correct?
Yeah.
If you go below unity, you're just cutting from what you have to work with. And so if I have gain set where everything's coming in the mixer, I can see a visual reference of where everything's sitting because I'm cutting by a certain amount on everything.
Right.
And so if all the
good.
faders are sitting in a different place, let's say like, oh, look, the electric guitar is sitting lower than the acoustic guitar is right now. And that's not like a rule of thumb. Like, it might sound different than it looks, but it's definitely more of a visual reference than everything being at unity, if you ask me.
That's a good point. Never thought of it that way, but solid. Let's see. TJ sent his for us to review. So, Dylan, if you could pull that up, it just popped up on the list here. He asked if it was too late. We'll throw you in, TJ.
Okay, I just didn't comment on their visuals on this yet.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So just a couple of things I noticed on this shot. When we look at those cam lights up there, they're looking a little hazy. So I would just double check to make sure that your lens isn't dirty, doesn't have fingerprints or dust on it. It might just be a limitation of the lens or the camera sensor if it's not dirty, and that's all right. And I would say the shot that we're looking at right now is just a little bit overexposed. People's white clothing is about to be clipping, so I would just drop that ever so slightly, and it might help with the hazing on the cam lights as well. And then I'm not a big fan of how the camera is panned over to show everybody on stage to try to get that electric guitarist in the shot, because he's kind of only halfway in it anyway. I think I'd honestly just rather see this centered on the pulpit and or whoever is leading the song, for instance. That means you're probably going to have to cut him out over there in the corner, but I don't think the goal is to get everybody on stage in the shot. Like, I don't really need to see what everybody's doing. I need to see, like, I don't want to say who the focus of the stage is, because there's not really like someone that we need to be focused on. Obviously, you're focused on worshiping and you're focused on the Lord, but there's too much for my eyes to see in this, and the fact that it's panned over just looks a little bit wonky. So consider that. But other than that, I think it looks great. Just a couple of adjustments.
Awesome. Jim is asking, how do I submit mine for review? This is something that we do for our students, so go get access to our courses, and you'll also get access to live stream reviews, and you can submit yours every month if you want to, and we can just continue to improve things as time goes on. So there's a link in the description for that, or go to collaborateworship.com. Let's see. Doug asked, does the mixing triangle suggest that the drum and bass should be relatively quiet as part of the mix? Nope. The reason I use the triangle is because you can see the bass guitar and the kick drum are the biggest section of the mix. Like they're the foundation of the mix. So they really determine the volume of the mix. The volume of your mix, like, and I've ran into this problem before, even at our church. If the bass guitar and the kick drum aren't right as far as volume goes, it makes everything else sound loud. Like you could take a mix that sounds great. You're like, that is the right volume. Like, the room is full, it's not too loud. And then you pull the bass guitar and the kick drum down, but you leave everything else where it was, and all of a sudden everything else sounds too loud. And it's because it doesn't have that foundation. It's kind of like, if you built a house without a foundation, it wouldn't go too well. It'd be all the same stuff on top, but then it would fall apart because the foundation wasn't right. So bass guitar and kick drum, it sets the foundation for your volume in general. So that's why I like to set that first. How loud do I want the bass guitar and kick drum in the room? And then you can build everything else on top of that.
What if I don't have a bass guitar or a kick drum?
Find one. It's so sad. But
You got a piano player with a left hand.
yeah, your piano can fill in those low frequencies.
Acoustic guitar can fill it in a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that, though. It can get a little boxy sounding.
Yep. It's kind of a whole different mixing situation whenever you don't have a bass guitar and a kick drum, because basically you're not mixing a full band at that point. You're mixing more like an acoustic set, which doesn't have the energy of the full band. So, yep, you can use the other instruments to fill in that low frequency spectrum. Usually the piano is the best option for that, but the guitars can do it as well. Just don't do them all at the same time. All right, so TJ, First Alliance Church, Lexington. He's just looking for comments on the overall sound and mix, particularly getting the vocals sounding blended and placed well to stand out and not dominate. That sweet spot.
Endurance produces character.
All right, he said
Character
26:30,
produces hope.
26 minutes, 30
Hope.
seconds.
Hold on, all who believe, you that are longing to see His face. Will you this moment His grace receive? together. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Sing Amazing Grace. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love.
Awesome. You know, TJ, overall, I think this is a good mix. You got a good thing going. As far as balance goes, I think you got a good balance going. I would blend the background vocals in a little bit more than you have and bring the lead vocal up a little bit. The easiest way to get that part of the mix right is just to turn your lead vocal down all the way in the mix and just mix it without the lead vocal in there. That way you can pay attention to getting your background vocals to be more of a blend in with the instruments, and then it's easy to bring your lead vocal on top of everything that's going on. So that's one of the techniques that I like to use. I'll cut the lead vocal out a lot just to kind of fine-tune my mix and then bring the lead vocal back. You're also, again, missing reverb. This mix needs reverb. Even I didn't catch any reverb on the lead vocal when he said sing with us. There was no reverb there, so unless your mix engineer is like really awesome and knows when he's going to sing and when he's going to talk and like really was on it. But even when he started singing, I wasn't hearing reverb. So add some reverb to this mix and it's going to bring it to life. I also noticed that the level was a little bit low overall compared to the others. So adjust your limiter settings to squeeze some more volume out of this for your live stream viewers. I don't know if it's necessarily a problem. Maybe if nobody said anything about it, then it's loud enough for people to get what they need to out of it. But one of the problems with having a quiet live stream mix is, like, say you're on YouTube and I'm watching your church and I have my volume all the way up, you know, so I can hear everything. And then I go on to the next YouTube video and it's just like, blast me out. That's not a very pleasant experience for the viewer. So getting it up will relieve that from happening. So main thing is reverb. Get reverb on this mix. Bring the overall level up, and you're going to be golden, man. Got a good thing going. Any comments on visuals, Dylan?
I was about to ask if you wanted any, but I just noticed, first off, good job matching the camera angles. I'm not sure if this is different cameras or if we're just cutting, like cropping it or something, but they're consistent. I would just say adjust your tint because our skin tones are looking too magenta, and I think that'll improve things quite a bit. And then it looks like your leveling on the cameras might be off a tiny bit or like tilted a little bit, so double check that, see if you can get them more level.
All right, y'all. Thanks for sending these in. We love doing these live stream reviews. If you're watching and you want to get your live stream reviewed, just become one of our students. You can learn more about that at collaborateworship.com. Go to the courses page or click the link in the description of this video. When you become a student, you also give access to somebody who's in a developing country for free. It's a one-for-one partnership. So we don't really see this as a course purchase, but you are partnering with us so that we can serve more churches worldwide. We just crossed the 15,000 mark. We have 15,000 students in our courses, which represents, I think, 3,500 different churches in 53 different countries. So it's really cool to be serving people all around the world, and we are looking to expand that because there's a whole lot more churches that need these resources. We're all about making sound simple, so we believe there's a simple way to get the job done so you can sound great and lead worship without distraction. So we've taken the time and put in the effort to find those strategies, and we make them available to you through our YouTube channel and through our courses. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button and go and become one of our students. We'd love to have you. Anything else, Dylan?
I think that's it.
Awesome. Y'all have a good one. See you soon.
Adios.